My name is Phroomf. I live with Santa Claus. We're talking the story of Phroomf. Hit it. It was 1986. New shoes couldn't wait. Gina Davis warned us to be afraid, very afraid. Mattel released the Eternia playset, and Santa rescued an 8-inch pixie from being crushed. I'm your host, Jerry D, with another episode of Totally Rad Christmas, the podcast that talks all things Christmas in the 80s. Toys, movies, specials, music, and fads. If it was gnarly during Christmas in the 80s, we got it covered. Now, joining me is a very special guest. You'll know him from Wizards, the podcast guide to comics, and Rental Return, Thrift Store Horde, and Wax Pack Flashback on the Retro Network. It's Adam Pope. Adam, how's it going?
Oh, most excellent. How you doing, Jerry?
you know, I'm all right, man. We had a snow day today, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I got to say, it is a thrill for me because who else but you most likely would want to actually have this conversation? Nobody knows what we're talking about tonight, but soon they will.
So, yeah, we're here to talk about Phroomf.
The story of Phroomf. When you hear the bell, turn the page.
And I had completely forgotten this until you had posted something on Twitter, and I was actually tagged, like I was retweeted, and I was tagged in this retweet by our friend Mike Westfall from Advent Calendar House. And all of a sudden it was like, I remember this. This is the craziest thing. You know, it's just like the strange little pixie guy that just came out of nowhere.
And disappeared just as quickly as he arrived. Yeah. Although he seems to have a history that we'll get into, I'm sure. That it's just like, really? That's okay.
I had a hard time finding some stuff on this thing.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, it goes back, like the story was written and the song go back to like 1954.
Yeah, that's the strange thing about it, right? It's like it's some Christmas novelty song from the 50s,
Yeah.
seemingly trying to get on the same track as Rudolph, right? To be a superstar of Christmas, and for whatever reason did not connect, and then suddenly 30 years later it is brought back into the consciousness in the 80s, and it's just like, we're going to try this again. We're going full steam ahead.
You know, only the weirdness and the awesomeness that was the 80s could bring back something like this.
100%. And I mean, Phroomf belongs in the 80s. Like, if you look at the character design, again, a lot of people, they're not going to have any frame of reference for Phroomf, you know, but but it is a situation where he looks kind of like, you take like a glowworm, you know, you take one of like the Littles, maybe, you kind of mix them together with a little superhero costume, some Muppet Babies thrown in. Like, he's got a lot of elements that come together.
What was I can't remember the name. Red, the red one from Rainbow Bright.
Oh yeah,
there's a tiny bit of that in there too. It's like, you're right, just this hodgepodge of everything. See what sticks, just kind of like the 80s was. You know, we had the Inhumanoids, we had, you know, Supernaturals, all these random things. And Phroomf really, I completely agree, he really belongs in there. But before we like get into it, let me just ask, what do you remember? What's your history with Phroomf?
Okay, so this is kind of like I say, a very unique, because not too many people know about him. But I remember, you know, it was about 1986 is when this was kind of getting launched, and people were being made aware of it. And so there were these commercials that were playing on TV, and we'll get into that soon, I'm sure. But it was being promoted, but I'm almost certain that the real reason I wanted it is my mom always took me to department stores with her.
Okay.
So it was always there's nothing in a department store that I wanted,
Right.
And so like one time I got like a Fievel Mousekewitz from, an
That's
American
cool.
Tail.
I
Yeah.
love
So I was like,
Fievel. Yeah.
so I think when I started going to the department stores, I was like, oh, maybe there's a stuffed animal I could get, something that
Right.
I know. And so I got this Phroomf tape and cassette. I don't even think I got the doll originally. There was a full gift set, but I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure what I remember most is the book, the story of Phroomf, and then this little yellow cassette tape, which I have now. I did not have it for many years, and I
That's
finally have
awesome.
it. But and my biggest memory is that I would, and this was the 80s, right? Like my
Right.
mom would go run errands and I would say, I want to stay in the car and listen to my tapes. So I just bring my story cassettes and she would just, flip on the radio and then I could put my tapes in. And so she'd run into the bank real quick or whatever, go to the drugstore, grab some whatever she was in need of, nail polish remover, whatever,
Right. Right.
some legs in the egg, like
Yes. Yes.
in her nylons. And so anyway, so it was a situation where like I would just remember sitting in the car listening to the tape over and over again, going through the book, and it wasn't even Christmas. I mean, it wasn't Christmas time necessarily. It was just all year long. I would listen to the story of Phroomf, and he became this icon of my childhood that like I couldn't talk to anybody else about because like I don't know what Phroomf is. I've never heard of that. I'm like, okay,
Rudolph, Frosty, Phroomf.
Phroomf.
No, and I'm right there with you. So I never had it, but one of my best friends growing up, he's the guy that had like the flag. He had like all the awesome toys. He had Nintendo before everybody else did.
Oh
That he
wow.
was that guy, my friend Richard. And I remember going to his house and seeing this yellow cassette and book on the floor. And I guess he had gotten it as a Christmas gift from, I think maybe his uncle. It might have been his aunt. I reached out, but I think it was just too little too late because he didn't respond. But I remember it was like a gift from a relative. He listened to it like a couple of times and that was about it. And I remember looking at him like, this is the weirdest thing. What is this? And so he played it for me this one time. And I'll never forget it was like a deep voice. I think nowadays I'd probably say it's like a baritone or a bass, but back then it was just, this deep voice, talking, telling the story, and there were sound effects and music. And as soon as you sent me the MP3, as soon as I heard that fanfare, like it just came flooding back. And I remember being in that room with his TV over here and he had his bed over there and the flag was on this side, took up like most of his room. And it brought it all back to me. And I only heard it like that once, maybe another time after that. But as soon as I saw it and as soon as you brought it up again, I just remember this thing and I was like, I gotta cover this. And so I'm glad you brought it up because it really is kind of a hidden treasure.
Yeah, that's the strange thing is like all these years I continue to like search and try to get more information just on the origins of this. And the funny thing is every time I search, it just comes up with my article that I wrote like 7 years ago.
Yes.
And so like I just see my own story repeated in front of me with some facts that are not 100%, as I've gathered things here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty accurate from what's available right now. But yeah, so if there is somebody out there that is a super Phroomf lover, this somehow pulls you out of the woodwork. You gotta give us all the details.
Please let us know.
Yeah.
Yes. We gotta know what's going on with this doll. So the only thing other than this that I really recall was the commercial. This was like he was a big guy, big deal back at that time. So it was Bob Boone, the catcher, wasn't he? I think he was a
Yeah.
catcher. Because there's that famous play of him with Pete Rose, where he like tries to catch the fly, misses it, and Pete Rose catches it. It was like during the World Series in like 81 or 82, something like that.
It's popped up. Boone, Rose, they'll have a play. Boone dropped it and Rose caught it. Rose was right there. It popped out of his glove and Rose made the play.
So I knew Bob Boone and I remembered that he was on this commercial, but again, it was something that I completely had like data leakage or something out of my mind, like Johnny Mnemonic. I don't know. It was out there and I'd forgotten about it until I saw your article again. And it was like, yes, I know this guy. I know this. This is what I remember. And it's just, Yeah, it was great. I love this.
That's the question that I have about it, because at the time he was playing for the Angels. So in the
Right.
commercial, he's wearing an Angels uniform. I grew up in Orange County, so right next
Okay.
to Anaheim.
Mhm.
So I was in that area, and so in the commercial, it is so bizarre because he's just talking about, oh, there's a new helper for Santa for
Yeah.
this Christmas season, and his name
Yes.
is Frump. He
Frump, he
keeps
says
calling him
Frump, yeah.
Frump.
Yeah, he totally didn't listen to the tape.
No. No, he's just like, I guess it's from I don't know how you say this. Anyway, they
Yeah.
paid me my money.
Yeah, I'm gonna
But
go cash my check.
the connection of this Major League Baseball player to this Christmas story and doll tape collector set, like, I don't understand why you would. Did they just think America loves this man, so he's vouching for Phroomf, and therefore, it's
I
going to be a hit? Like,
yeah, I think that's actually what it is because anything else doesn't make sense.
no,
So,
because
yeah.
there's not Christmas decorations in the
Mm-mm.
locker room. He's literally on, like, he got his knee up, like on or his leg up on a bench. He's on his knee, and the thing is, so he's holding this Phroomf doll,
Hey,
and
there you go.
yeah, so I finally tracked one of these down this year and got it for a steal. Like, I couldn't believe it, because I've seen a huge lot of Phroomf paraphernalia up on eBay like last year, and
Mhm.
it was like $1,500
Oh my
because they,
gosh.
they had multiple copies. They had like a full boxed set. They had the tape and the cassette set. They had multiple dolls, and I was like, whoa, okay, I'm not. I love it, but I'm not
Yeah,
going to go
yeah.
that crazy. And
Yeah.
the thing that he has is there's a Phroomf doll, but he's in a pouch.
Mhm.
And so there's this little pouch that then has a Velcro piece on the back. Do a little sound effect there. And so you can actually put the Velcro around your knee. And that's part of the story, which we'll get into. But in
Mhm.
the commercial, Bob Boone has him around his knee. Like me, put Phroomf on your knee this Christmas. And it's
My name is Phroomf. I live with Santa Claus. You never heard about me, and the reason is because.
Hi, Bob Boone reminding you that Santa has a new friend and helper this year, Phroomf. It'll make a great gift, and the kids will really enjoy it. Look for this beautifully illustrated storybook, tape, and Phroomf doll at your favorite store and mall this Christmas. And remember, you too can wear Phroomf on your knee like me.
so bizarre, like everything about it. And I don't know if there's like a literal like disconnect that people will be like, well, maybe we're not going to pick that up, because this doesn't feel Christmassy
Not
necessarily.
at all. Not at all. There's nothing about it. He's literally just there on the chair and in the locker room. I mean, there's nothing at all about it. And I know in your article you make the connection, maybe angels kind of have something to do with Christmas. And
Yeah.
yeah, it feels like a stretch, but right now that's like the best we got. So I'm going with that. I think you're right. That's yeah. So this Phroomf, and we'll go ahead and get into the story.
Yeah.
It's this little doll that I don't think was quite 8 inches. It feels like it's a little bit taller. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It says, I'm about 8 inches high, but yeah, this one definitely feels a lot bigger. I'm trying to think of an equivalent doll from the era, because I mean, he's smaller than a glowworm, because
Mhm.
glowworms were a little bit
They were
longer.
long. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's like, he's got some girth to him. He's a little round guy. So, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, maybe like the smaller Popples. He's about that
Okay.
size. Yeah. So gotta try to visualize that. But yeah, so but the story is bizarre because, as we were talking about, the song
Mhm.
predates the storybook
Right.
by 30 odd years.
Yes.
And the song tells a very different story in many ways than what the storybook is. So I don't know which one you want to get into, or we could just discuss
Let's talk the story first, and then we'll go into
Okay.
the song, because that's what I remember. I remember hearing the story, and then they tag the song at the end. So I
Yeah.
think that's what we'll do. I kind of prefer the story over the song
Yes.
anyway. And you can tell when we get into the song, the singer is singing in that style, very, very popular in those types of songs, those novelty songs of the 50s, with tons of vibrato. I mean, like ridiculous vibrato all over the place. And it's just like, ooh, I don't
And like it
like that.
probably sped up like, the Chipmunks. It's
Right.
like to have an elfin voice, but also it kind of reminds me of that like that song that I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, it is Donatello, the voice of Donatello from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He sang when he was a kid, but it's like that song about like I'm getting nothing for Christmas
Oh
or
yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. I'm getting nothing for Christmas.
nothing.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but it feels 100% in
Mhm.
that vein. But
Yeah, very, very much so. Yeah, it's just not my favorite song. I'll be honest, I'm gonna say that right now. It's not my favorite song. The story though is actually I dig the story. Not a lot happens in the story, and I have
yeah,
questions, but
yes,
but it's a cool story compared to the song. Um, so yeah, written by Rosina Diva, illustrated by Pat Salter, yeah, Sauter. I tried looking it up every time I looked up
yeah.
anything on Rosina Diva. All I got was the copyright notice from 1956, and that's it. Otherwise, it pulled up a whole bunch of of actual divas, like opera singers whose names
Yeah.
were Rosina. There's nothing. Like, I wish I could go into the history of this. I had a hard time. I really did.
Yeah, it just feels like if something did exist, it would be out there by now. And there's just
Right.
like this is a lark that somebody did, or Rosina Diva might be not a real name. You know
It
what I'm
could,
saying? That
yeah.
could just be they just created it. It's like the guy who wrote the Hardy Boys books, or
Oh, like
you know,
Franklin W. Dixon.
exactly. He is many people, you know,
That's
he is Legion.
he is all of us.
Yeah.
He's no one. He is all of us. Oh man. So okay, let's get into this. So it starts off, we get the very first page. I love. It's got Santa's golden castle at the North Pole. I mean, it's a castle like straight up made out of gold. It's glowing. He has a big flag that says Santa, which seems a little suspect if people are flying over your your region trying to prove you exist, you know.
Yeah, like I don't know if you've seen like, you know, like the night they saved Christmas where Santa's got that like hidden fortress, you
Yes, I
know.
have seen that.
So
Yeah.
there's obviously that, but more so, it reminds me of if you're a Mystery Science Theater 3000 fan, but obviously a Christmas fan in your case, is Santa Claus, not Santa Claus the movie, but just the Mexican Santa Claus movie,
Yeah,
where
yes.
he lives in this palace up in the clouds. And I'm just like, I never knew that was part of the Santa Claus mythos, but apparently to some people it was.
You know, there's all sorts of mythology out there. There's a lot of the songs, especially from like the 50s and 60s, talk about Santa being like from outer space, you know,
Wow.
coming in from another galaxy. And you're just like, what are you talking about? He's Santa.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like this grand, just palatial building that's just shimmering. And of course, we get a nice north wind personification that reminded me very much of the 1979 Jack Frost.
Yeah. It's like a big cloud with a face. Yeah. Blowing
Exactly.
air, cold air.
Yeah, and so it's like I was as soon as I saw that, I remember as a kid seeing that and being all in. And so for a long time until 85 and excuse me, until I saw Santa Claus the movie again because I remember seeing it in 85. I remembered, you know, this was like what I pictured the outside of Santa's workshop. I was like, yeah, he's got that huge golden palace. And then it came out on video and I saw it again and I was like, oh yeah, okay, never mind. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, because my frame of reference for Santa's workshop is always there was in Scrooged at the beginning
Oh yeah.
trailer,
Yeah.
just like this, you know, just kind of this snowy shack, you know, just this wooden structure. And it was the same thing as where I grew up. We had Santa's Village that was
Okay.
in California. And
Yeah.
I never got to go. I wish I would have gone, but they always ran commercials for it all the time. And it was just like this little kind of European looking wooden building, you know? So it's like, oh, that's where Santa works. Okay.
Yeah, so imagine all of a sudden that like this was an upgrade, you know.
Absolutely.
But so talks about him being at the North Pole and he lives in the castle of gold on a hill, just you know, that kind of thing. And I'll read a little bit here and there.
Santa Claus lives at the North Pole, at the top of the world, so icy and cold. Mountains of ice that glitter and shine, a world full of snow and trees of pine. His castle of gold is on a hill, and when you first see it, oh, what a thrill.
But we're introduced kind of to our narrator next, I think, right? He's the one that's actually telling the story, this little elf.
Yes. Never named. We don't know
Nope.
anything about him other than he's got some red hair and he's got the classic elf outfit, the little hat, with a little crook at the top. And
Mhm.
he almost looks like, a serf from medieval times. He's working for King Santa.
Santa's slaves, his,
Yeah.
indentured servants, so he's telling the story about this particular night, and we cut to, like, Santa and a bunch of the elves, although I think they call them dwarves in this.
Yes. So that's the first thing, right? We're used to
Yeah.
hearing Santa's elves, and this is definitely Santa's dwarves.
Santa's dwarves, yeah.
Yeah.
It's gotta be, like, some sort of parallel universe, alternate reality going on.
Well, and the strange thing is there's like a couple super old, balding, bearded, or mustachioed at least,
Mhm.
dwarves that are part of this pack, but then the rest are all pretty youthful looking. And a little bit later, we learn that maybe some of them are children. We don't know. At least they're younger than Santa in his estimation.
Right, because he
So,
calls them children, which
right.
yeah, that's a little creepy nowadays, but back
Yeah.
then, I'm sure it's fine. But yeah, so Santa, he's like rocking in his chair. He's got his coat off. And I always like images, growing up, I always loved images of Santa just kind of relaxing. And, almost expected him to have like a Coca-Cola in his hand.
Little
You know?
polar bear outside the window handing it in. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Santa. Um, but so there's like a roaring fire and they're all just kind of relaxing. And there's like this huge gust of wind that comes in, and our narrator is like cold. That's like the next page essentially.
Santa was rocking in his rocking chair. His silly old nightcap covered his hair. The logs in the fireplace burned a glittering ray as Santa spun tales of Christmas Day. Suddenly, the flames began to flicker and sputter. What's this? What's this? I heard Santa mutter.
But I did like Santa's decor here. Before we talk about anything else, I want to talk about his decor because he's got this picture frame of two candy canes that are crossed, almost like a pirate's flag or
Exactly. Captain Candy Cane. Ah!
That's right. They sail the seven seas handing out booty.
Yeah, but he's also got like on his door frame, because you just see this door frame off to the side, and he's got Christmas trees like cut out in like the wood paneling of some sort. Like he's very detailed and very on brand.
Yes.
So to say, or Mrs. Claus. This might be Mrs. Claus.
It could be Mrs. Claus. Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Maybe it's even a tapestry or something. Who knows? But yeah, and he's got the garland on the mantle. So I don't know if you know, I actually work at a Christmas store.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I work in the lighting department, and one of the things we do is sell garland, like outdoor garland, but a lot of people buy them for their mantles. And so as soon as I saw this, I was like, "Oh, I know what that is. I do that. I do that for a living." So it's like, all right, Santa's game is on point. I dig it. But yeah, so our narrator feels like this huge gust of wind, and Santa looks outside because a star has exploded.
Whoa.
So there's a supernova somewhere.
Yeah.
So again, this is like it's almost quasi science fiction. And later
Yeah.
on, when we're actually introduced to Phroomf, it makes me think of like Mr. Mxyzptlk from Superman. And so I wonder if he's like from the fifth dimension or
Yeah, I mean, it definitely broke through something, opened up when the star exploded, a wormhole, and he was launched through it. I mean,
That's right. Yeah.
yeah, but the fact that they even knew a star exploded, that was their explanation, right? Like,
Yeah.
why? How would you conceive that is why there's this bright light in the sky, and you maybe heard a sound from billions of miles away,
Right.
Yeah.
You'd think, okay, they're Christmas, maybe like the Bethlehem star or something, but nope, it's a supernova. And
Yeah.
but so it says the room was dark, the castle shook. Santa ran to the window to have a look. Far, far away and way up high beyond the moon, up in the sky, a star exploded with a thunderous boom. Lightning cracked with a rumbling zoom. Like, that's cool.
That's great.
And we get our first image of Phroomf falling from the sky, literally kind of coming out of this explosion. And he's got his red jumper.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically got red pajamas on, but he's got the classic like a penguin, like the little white roundness around his chest and top of his belly area. And he's got a blue cape.
Blue cape, yep. And
yellow gloves, but they seem to be Western themed because they have stars on the cuffs.
Oh, they do. I've never noticed that.
The doll has that detail.
Wow,
and
that's cool.
The other thing that's strange is like maybe he has suspenders. I don't know, but like around his waist, there are 2 stars on either point that look like they would be little buttons for suspenders, but he doesn't have anything going over his shoulders.
It's just costume accessory. Oh man. Yeah. So he literally just falls to Earth and lands in the snow in the North Pole. And Santa, knowing something's up, he's like looking out the window. He gathers all his all his dwarves, and they go to check it out.
Yeah. Now the thing they do mention is, like you were saying with the North Wind, we also see the moon and the sun are watching Phroomf as he's flying down to Earth. And Mr. Sun, it says, was so sad he turned his light out. Okay, this is catastrophic. Okay, where the pixie is falling to Earth, and now we are all doomed because he made the sun sad. This is going to be a problem.
yeah, for real. Well, poor Superman. But I tell you though, it actually, like, this is how, I don't want to say upper level because it's really not, but it's definitely elevated because they talk about the sad little pixie in his terrible plight.
A star exploded with a thunderous boom. Lightning cracked with a rumbling zoom. A little pixie was hurled through space. Tears of fright streamed down his face. The man in the moon began to cry as he saw this pixie go racing by. Save me, save me, the stars heard him shout. Mr. Sun was so sad, he turned his light out. His sad little pixie in his terrible plight was falling to Earth on a cold winter night.
Like plight, who said plights back, when you're 5 or 6?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they didn't quite talk down to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something where, they're going to find those rhymes where they need them.
Exactly. Yeah.
We've discovered it. They're not going to go out Dr. Seuss. They're going to use existing words, but
his name and planet being the exceptions there.
Yeah.
But this is where Santa starts calling them children. And it made me wonder, like, is that all of his elves? Like, does he call them that, or are there different ages of elves in there?
Yeah, definitely. Our narrator seems to be one of the younger elves.
He does.
Dwarves. My apologies.
That's right. Dwarves. Yeah. Yeah. So Santa knows someone's in trouble. We got to go help him. And he gathers his troops out, and he slips on the steps for some reason.
This is classic Home Alone. Kevin McAllister was involved. He's icing those steps.
or the Muppets. Watch out for the icy patch. That one goes to Mike Westfall there.
There we go.
But yeah, so he okay, I got to read this because it's just funny. Santa rushed to the door, and into the night he slipped on the stairway. What a terrible sight. Santa bounced and rolled like a rubber ball. He was up in a jiffy and started to call.
There's a lot of rubber ball or just ball imagery too that is in the text of the story too. It just seemed like a good rhyme. I think they're just like fall, ball. We got it.
Yeah. What rhymes with light? Plight? No. Let's go back to ball. But I do like Santa's gloves. He's got these mittens that are candy cane-ish.
Yeah, they're kind of zigzagged, but but they have the white and the red. It's not something you normally see with Santa. Yeah,
no, it's not. I thought it was actually quite dug that artistic choice there. Of course, his stairs have like this green carpet on them for some reason.
I know. I always think it's AstroTurf when I look at it. I mean, he has AstroTurf on his stairs. Okay,
so. I don't know if you were in marching band. I was in marching band, and we would go to the Alamo Dome. Right, it was like brand new. We would go to the Alamo Dome and compete in some of those, in competitions. And they would lay AstroTurf down. And if you've never marched on AstroTurf, your heel hits it, and it almost seems like it's kind of rolling a bit. It's just this weird feeling that not quite, grass, not quite solid ground, and so. I definitely could see how Santa, if he was walking on AstroTurf carpet, would fall.
See, it checks out. Rosina Diva. She must also been in band.
That's right. Yeah, she knew what AstroTurf was. So they get up and Phroomf like lands behind them. And there's a great picture of Santa like looking out, in the distance, and it's almost Monty Python-esque, where all this stuff is happening behind you.
The exact opposite way they're looking. Yeah,
that's right.
You also learn that it wasn't just a pratfall for comedy's sake, that it is for the narrative essential for Santa to have fallen, because he's now has a ripped section of his pants right on his knee that will need to be repaired ultimately. But right now they're more concerned with what just fell out of the sky.
That's right. And then they heard the little voice cry. And so they turn around and there's the little pixie that we find out, Phroomf, and he's looking so sad and he's so tiny and he's afraid he's going to be trampled and all sorts of mischief is going to happen to him. And Santa picks him up and he like cares for him and starts wiping him off and just everything, being that of course he's Santa. He has care for all of the children in the world.
Yeah, no, I want to call or off-world
in this case. That's right. Yeah.
So I'm starting to see these parallels. You mentioned earlier a little bit about a Superman. And honestly, a star's exploded or a planet has exploded and a tiny little person has been launched across the galaxy to Earth, presumably.
Right.
He's at the North Pole, so as far as we know, that is the North Pole of Earth. And we have here, he has inverted colors, right? Superman is blue with a red cape, but he's red with a blue cape, okay? And honestly, he's come from a land far, far away. We don't know if he has any powers yet, but here he is found by an older gentleman and rescued. This is a Superman story. We're getting maybe Superman's cousin. Maybe it was Krypton, and he's just mumbling fiff and foffle once we get to this.
He just hit his head a little.
Quite get it out. Yeah, he's too shaken up.
Or it's like a colony of Krypton.
Yeah. Like where Supergirl grew up. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Oh man. And so Santa like bends down and I like this imagery here. They talk about the little pixie lets out a wail, his eyes big as plums, his face drawn and pale. Again, yes, just for the rhyme's sake, but good words there. Good word choice.
Yeah, plum pudding starts making you thinking about some plum pudding that always seems to be in the British side of stories. And drawn and pale could definitely be from A Christmas Carol. Somebody was drawn and pale in that, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it was all of them probably. It was Victorian England. But so Santa takes him in and we cut to inside the gold castle and there's like a big boiling pot, which presumably is their dinner. But it's a little ominous seeing Santa carrying in this little guy, and we cut to a.
Well, here's the thing: like, how many stories did we see throughout our childhoods where there was a boiling pot of soup, this giant cauldron hanging in a fireplace, and how many of us ever got to experience that in real life? Very few, but. Never. We had this thing that we did in my area that my dad helped out with every year that was called a corn roast. Because like I said, I grew up in Southern California right by the beach.
Okay.
And so literally we had a giant black cauldron. You would go out and get like a big plastic tub, fill it up with seawater. You would boil water in the cauldron over a fire. And you skimmed off all like the scum and stuff that would come out of there.
Right.
And then we had a big wire basket and we filled it with corn, like corn on the cob. And you would boil it for like an hour in the seawater, and it would naturally infuse it with the salt and flavor. And so we would do this, this corn roast, but it wasn't a roast, right? It was like
right.
It was a corn boiling experience, and it was like a part of my childhood. So that was like as close as I ever got to this type of imagery.
Yeah, I'm Hispanic, so we've had like huge tubs, metal pots that they would make all sorts of stuff in, but I never saw one this shape hanging from like a hook over a fire. Like this was different. This is new to me. So I, even like going to like my rural relatives out in, the ranch and stuff like that, we never quite had anything like this. So that's cool that you got to experience that because I never did,
Yeah.
We would just make tamales. But so Santa takes Phroomf. He has him in his hat now. And so he starts to ask him his name.
The dwarfs had candy. I had the same. Santa gave him a piece and then asked his name. The pixie looked up at Santa, his nose so red. In a wee voice answered, Phroomf, and then bowed his head. Phroomf? Phroomf? Is that your name? I said it was Phroomf. Is this a game?
This is where I love this part. He's like, my name's Phroomf. And Santa's like, your name's Phroomf? Are you sure that's your name? He's like, yeah, that's what I said, man.
Is this a game? Yeah, he's just like, yeah, Phroomf, that's my name. You asked me, basically.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want, Santa?
That's right. So, I mean, it's the strangest interaction there, but he's like, yeah, look, I come from this planet called, let's see if I get it right, Finfinfawful.
Yeah, Finfinfawful.
Yeah. Jeez. I practiced all afternoon and I still messed it up. Finfinfawful. There we go. Yeah. So they start dancing around him.
Okay. I don't know if you've ever seen the Todd Browning film Freaks. But Todd Browning, who directed the first Dracula movie with Bela Lugosi, also made this movie called Freaks. And there's this section in there where they're bringing in this woman who's part of their circus, and they say, "Gobble gobble, we accept you, one of us." And the Ramones actually did their song Pinhead about that movie.
Oh, okay.
Gabba gabba hey, gabba gabba.
Yeah.
So that's what this reminds me of. Like they're initiating Phroomf into their dwarf collective at the North Pole. It's odd.
But we get like a closer look at some of the attire that these dwarves are wearing, and some of them are strange. Like the older one with the mustache and like, you know, the big old handlebar and like mutton chops, and he's got like this black vest on with like this bright red bow, like almost like a bow tie, but not quite a bow tie. It's like a bow almost.
Yeah, because that's the bow parts coming out the bottom.
Tails. Yeah, it's got the tails and the black vest, but he's got like these blue pants over this like reddish pinkish shirt. It's the strangest combination. And his hat looks like from Mario Brothers, like one of the
like those turtles, or not the turtles, but like those guys you jump on and then they just turn into like a black shell and you push it.
Yes,
yeah,
I can't remember the name.
Those guys are called either. Yeah.
So there's that guy, and then we get like, okay, that guy, our narrator, he looks like a standard elf, and then there's one that looks like a butler, like he's got a
yeah, he's bald on top, he's got the hair on the side, you know, and he's got very white bushy eyebrows, but he's got a black vest on and a white shirt underneath. So yeah, very formal.
But his vest has tails. It's like a coat, but with no sleeves. It's the strangest thing. I love it though. I don't know what it is. I love it. But yeah, it's weird. And Phroomf is just like, all right, I can do this. And he just starts dancing in the middle. He was too small to join in the fun. No one could spell his name. No, not one. But it seems like he is joining in the fun. So I don't know.
That's the part. And yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense because it's kind of like, oh, he's an outcast like Rudolph. No, he's not.
No.
They're happy he's there. They're dancing around him for some reason, but they're including him. He's the center of attention. Yeah.
Hopefully it's not the Wicker Man situation.
Yeah. The bees.
So anyway, so Santa's like in his rocking chair watching the festivities, I guess. And yeah, we get more of that ball imagery where the little pixie was afraid he was going to be stepped on or kicked like a ball. And so Santa's trying to figure something out. And our narrator has like this epiphany, you know, this aha moment. Hey, look, you got this hole in your knee on your suit, which first of all makes me wonder why he only has one suit. But so, you know, you got this hole, let me patch it up and also a little pouch on it. And Phroomf can just be in that pouch on your knee. And Santa just loves this idea. He's like, this is the best thing ever.
Santa rocked with Phroomf in his rocking chair. His trousers were torn, his face lined with care. That's it! That's it! I shouted with glee. A wonderful thought just came to me. I'll get a patch and your sewing kit, and then sew your trousers while you sit. A kangaroo pouch on your knee I'll sew. In the pouch he'd be safe, am I right? Yes or no? You're right, said Santa. Yes, sirree. Little Phroomf will be safe and always with me.
But my first thought was, doesn't Santa bend down on his knee, like, even earlier in the story? So, wouldn't he be scared that he'd bend down and, like, crush Phroomf? I'd be
Yeah, and
scared.
Santa's also a very wide fellow. So going through door frames, I'm a kind of a wide guy myself. I got long legs and stuff that run in all the time. I wouldn't want my precious friend or a pet even, on my knee. That would not be a good choice.
Seems like put him in your coat pocket or something if he has to be with you, just make
Yeah.
a little pocket there, but on his knee. And then the other thing I was thinking was like, how could he hear him? Because he's only 8 inches tall, so presumably his voice isn't that loud, unless he has like super vocal powers we don't know about. He is an alien. So
Well, we're waiting for the sun to turn back on, so he'll be exposed to the yellow rays of the sun and get his Kryptonian powers.
that's right. That's right. I'm sure Superman has a super volume or something if he
Yeah.
wanted. But Santa's like, yes, sirree, this is awesome. And so the narrator starts sewing the pouch, and Santa even gives Phroomf like a golden scroll. And
Well, the funny part about this, he says, "You're jumping on me." I heard Santa cry. I'm like, is that good or bad? Like, it's got an exclamation point, so it sounds like he's worried. Phroomf, settle down, buddy.
like, I'm doing you a solid here.
Yeah.
Come on, don't abuse it. But yeah, Phroomf is like just excited, and yeah, Santa gives him like, I guess, the naughty and nice list essentially.
Yeah, well, I mean, it says specifically that it's just the names of the children. So, like, we know it's supposed to be the naughty and nice list, but he also gives him a whistle made from a thistle. And I'm just like, what's the whistle for, though? That's what they don't really explain. Like you're saying, maybe he's not loud enough. So if there's a problem, then he does his whistle and Santa can hear it. Maybe that they thought of everything.
So then I guess he's got to like bend down to hear, kneel down, but on the other knee, hopefully. And and so that's they're like, all right, this is it. The comet fell from the sky, with little Phroomf 8 inches high, and he's gonna be Santa's new pet, I guess, or his best bud. And that's it. But the cool thing is there's like sound effects while all this is being told. And Ed Ames is the one that's reading this on the tape. And if you don't know Ed Ames, he was an actor, probably best known for playing Mingo on Daniel Boone. He was Mingo and Daniel Boone. And there's a very famous clip of him, actually. I know him because of the Time Life Treasury of Christmas. We listen to it every year. That's what we decorate our tree to growing up. And he sings Away in a Manger. But there's a very famous clip of him on the Johnny Carson show. And because he played Mingo, like this Native American character, he had to be proficient with the tomahawk. And so he was like, Johnny Carson had this cutout across the room of like a cowboy, and he had to throw the tomahawk at him. I don't know if you've ever seen this.
I feel like I have. Yeah, because I actually have a recorded off TV Johnny Carson's last episode where they showed all the clips of like years. So yeah.
So yeah, you've probably seen it. So he's telling him about the trick to throwing tomahawks and everything, and he throws it, and it lands embedded in like the crotch of the cutout, and everyone has a big laugh, and everything. But like that's Ed Ames. That was like one of Carson's most favorite clips, apparently.
What is the trick on it? You throw underhanded?
No.
Overhanded.
It's an overhand throw. The trick is to keep your arm extended, and that way you break the microphone. You keep your arm extended and put only one revolution on the once around on the way, but that's indefinite.
All right.
So I mean, that's how I remember him. Is like he sings Away in a Manger, and he's the guy that threw the tomahawk at the cowboy and missed. But yeah, so this whole thing is narrated by like this bass, this baritone voice of this singer, it's crooner, and they got sound effects like for the fire. It's music. There's a fanfare, and of course the bell that rings every time you have to turn the page.
Yeah, and he does actually like take on different personas as he reads, so that's very nice. Like he has a Santa voice, he has his little Phroomf voice, he has the narrator voice, and then he has his narrator voice. The narrator voice can be a little ominous sometimes. It's a little intense. Maybe it's just the music behind it, like you said, the fanfare and everything leading into it. But yeah, but overall I think he does a great job.
Well, so like if I were doing it, my voice is a little more, nasally and tenor, but he's got this deep baritone. I mean, it's just everything about it is like, whoa, okay. And I felt like listening to it that he should be like movies trailers, like doing movie trailers,
Yeah, he's got it.
He's got that kind of voice, and it almost reminded me of like some of those commercials from the 80s. Like, was that him? I mean, I know it's not him, but I got those vibes. That's the story. Not a lot of action. It's basically just a guy falls down from the sky and they find him and make a little home for him on Santa's suit. But we get the song, and the song is something special. It's very typical of like the era. There's a lot of big jumps, and a lot of chromaticisms. Da, da, dee, da, da. I mean, just not really what you hear most of the time nowadays. So I like it, but at the same time, if I never heard it again, I'd be okay.
Oh, really? See, for
Surprisingly.
me, it's an earworm. Like it gets stuck it's been in my head, most of my life at this point.
Right,
So,
right.
so it's something that I know very well, but it's just like, yeah, to me, the melody of it does fit. It's not like annoying to the point of, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh,
Mhm.
it's overly Christmassy. Like it's got all like the classic little flourishes, like you're saying, but I
Right.
think it's light and quick enough. The only thing I would say is maybe it's a little too long because they kind of just repeat stuff at the end again. You're like, well,
They
I
do,
think the
yeah.
song was over already, but you're still going here. But either way, like the story, the lyrics of it, like we're saying, we just saw the storybook that expands a bit on it. But the story, my name is Phroomf. I live with Santa Claus. You never heard about me, and the reason is because that's a pretty good opening rhyme. I gotta
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Clause and because. But I know that he has like it's very Rudolph-ish
Yeah,
because the elves don't like let him participate because he's just 8 inches high, I guess.
yeah.
That's like his big thing. Okay, sure.
Yeah,
Why not?
not at all what we saw in the story, but that's 100%. He's trying to play on the sympathies so he could be the underdog, just like Rudolph. And
That's right.
you want to be like Phroomf. And I think he was hoping for the Rankin Bass special. We never got that.
Oh man, I would have loved a Rankin Bass special about Phroomf. I mean, they had already done some weird things. This was like right after the Life and Adventures of Santa Claus,
Mhm.
the very pagan Santa Claus intro there. I that would have been cool. I would have dug it if they had bought the rights and done that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like because of this revival here in the 80s, that they're really pushing it, they're trying to market it. I cannot believe that there was not a Christmas special,
Mhm.
probably not Disney, but like so it feels like something that would have been made and then played on the Disney Channel every Christmas, like they just bought it, but it wasn't a Disney
Right.
produced, short film. But like because there's really so little in the song, all you get is, I am 8 inches high,
Mhm.
like, and other than that, there's no fiff and foffle in the song. They
No.
don't talk about that. They don't talk about him falling from a star. Like there's none of that. There's just, he is, and he's little, and I'm the little bump upon his knee.
Yeah.
Who is my name? Again, like that's part of the mythos for
Right.
say. So I feel like there's so much that could have been filled in, even if you didn't make Phroomf a Christmas story. Like, what if it was a TV Christmas special, but then it gets expanded into an animated series, and
Yep.
now you're learning all about Phroomf's different powers that he has because he's an alien. Like
It
that
feels
would have been huge.
it feels very like Ruby Spears. Like
100%. I'm thinking
it,
like Widget. I'm thinking like, like
yes.
Glomer on Punky Brewster,
Oh
like
yeah.
and his group of kids that he hangs out with, and it's just like there's so much they could have done with him, like whether he gets a group of Phroomfs, like I'm almost thinking also like the Ewoks cartoon or something
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah.
along those lines, he has like a tribe of his Phroomf people that he hangs out with, and then he
Or
got
the Elf cartoon, yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's so many that's what it really should have been. Is Phroomf should have been a crossover character for every other alien cartoon character, and then
Man, I love
Phroomf
it.
would make an appearance in an episode.
I love it. That would have been so cool. Um, but yeah, you're right. It definitely felt like if they had really wanted to try this, that they should have like reached out to what is it, Nelvana or just one of
Deke,
those company,
whoever.
Deke, yeah, or like I said, Ruby Spears, someone just to get it made. It could have been they could have done like a short 13 episode run, like one season of 13 episodes, like with Rubik, or something like that.
Yeah.
Because it does also feels a little bit like Rubik, this small little guy. So that would have been cool. I would have dug it, but a full stop motion Rankin Bass
Oh.
of Phroomf would have been awesome.
Well, because he kind of fits like the Noid. Like he's like a more round, cutesy Noid. And so like I feel like you definitely could have just, had that whole claymation aspect to him in the 80s would have looked even better than the Rankin Bass style. Like it would be fully expressive, and man, that would just be beautiful. Honestly, if I could break my way into Hollywood, is anybody out there listening? I'll send you a pitch. I got my 2-page proposal, and let's get this off the ground. I feel like who it would be is it'd be like Seth Rogen. He would be the guy to make the Phroomf special. Get it done at his production company.
Yeah, I could see him totally doing that, and I'm all in. Let's get this made. I do have a question though. So if you could be a character, or in this particular story, who would you be?
Oh, I don't know. Mr. Sun has a pretty good deal. He just turns himself off and he's sad and he doesn't have to participate. I don't know. Like, I guess being Phroomf sounds scary. So I don't want to be the one that everybody has to take care of. So I think I'd want to be the narrator, and I would like to just be the problem solver and kind of Phroomf's caretaker, help him out here and there, be that guy.
So that's awesome. I think for me, of course being Santa would be awesome, but if we're right and Phroomf has these crazy powers, then I think I would want to be Phroomf, be like Mighty Mouse, flying around saving the day.
Honestly, that's what we should have called out earlier. He's definitely got a Mighty Mouse vibe to him. Yeah.
Oh man. But okay, so we've talked a lot about Phroomf, and we've talked a little bit about our origins and all that, but what would you say would be your happiest memory or moment with Phroomf?
Well, it actually has to be this Christmas because I was able to finally get the doll. I had the story, like I'd found a scan years ago that I downloaded to my iPad. So I had it, but my older kids didn't really care. I have a 10-year-old, I have a 7-year-old, I have a 4-year-old. And they were kind of like, whatever, Dad, that's not for us. But my 4-year-old spends a lot of time with me, and he's a little bit more like Dad than the others. And so this year, after we read all the standard Christmas stories, I said, okay, I want to introduce something special to you guys because my kids love the elf on the shelf. Like every year our elf Larry comes, it's like the biggest thing. They like him more than Santa. Because he gives us presents like all month long. Santa's one night, but I said we're gonna meet Phroomf, and so I got to put Phroomf in his little sack and then put him around my 4-year-old's knee and had him hold the story, and then I read the story, and so we got to kind of make that now a part of our family tradition. And since then, like for bedtime, he's wanted to read Phroomf. We listened to the cassette tape once I got it, and he read along with it, and so he was just like so excited. So these are like my happiest memories right now, where it's actually what I always dreamed of, is passing it along to my kids, and I've finally been able to do that. So
that's awesome. I mean, that's just crazy awesome. So for me, like I only have vague recollections of it. I remember listening to it, once, maybe twice at my friend's house. Mostly, I gotta say, I think my memory, my best moment with it would probably be this conversation. I've had a lot of fun. It is my favorite part of the show now, which is a little segment I like to call Gag Me with the Spoon. So this is where we do our best impression of our least favorite part. Not necessarily something we don't like, just something we don't like as much. And so as a guest, I'll let you go first, just kind of set up the scene for us, and let's see what it is.
Yeah. So I think for me, just what it comes down to is the idea of that when Santa has fallen and he's ripped his knee and everything like that. It's I don't know, like I guess it's hard being diminutive in the
Yes.
world of Phroomf. So for me, when our narrator comes by, he says he shivered and shook as he sat and stared. I said, "Hello, little man. Don't be scared." Like I can feel like if Phroomf had the wrong attitude, he might be upset by that. It's like, "Hey, little man, who you talking to, buddy?"
That's
You know?
if he was actually General Zod and not Superman.
Yeah.
Kneel
Kneel
before
before
Phroomf.
Phroomf. Jinx.
That's awesome. Oh man, that's a good one. So I also picked a narrator line. And so this is when and it's not even that it's like a bad moment because Santa was trying to do something nice, but it felt so contrived because he just needed to get his knee, his pants torn. And so it's this moment where Santa rushed to the door and into the night. He slipped on the stairway. What a terrible sight. and Ed Ames just he really makes that come alive, and I just can't. But
Well, it sounds like he should be in the haunted mansion.
right?
That's what that sounds like it's from. That narration.
But G.I. Joe taught us that knowing is half the battle. What do you think the other half is?
Well, I think Phroomf lays it out for us. It's one of the lyrics we didn't get into in the song, but his wish is to be half as big as you or twice as big as me. So that's the half. He wants to be half as big as us.
That's
So it's
the
right
other
there.
half. Yeah. All right. I like that's way better than mine. I just said if knowing's half the battle, the other half is just having Santa carry you around all the time.
It's pretty good.
Yep. Oh man, Adam, it's been a blast talking with you about this. But tell me about your shows and anything you got going on.
Yeah, well, so like you mentioned up top, I am the co-host of Wizards, the podcast guide to comics, where we cover the 90s comic book boom through the pages of Wizard magazine. So
Nice.
each episode, we go through all the different sections in the news of the day as reported by Wizard, if people remember the guide to comics during that big boom of the early 90s, but it lasted for 20 years. So there are over 200 issues of Wizard magazine, and we're about 3 years in here. So that's very fun. So you can find us at wizardscomics.com if you want to listen to over 200 episodes now. We have special episodes and mini episodes and interviews with the actual people who made the magazine.
That's cool.
So, yeah, to the columnists and people like that. But I'm also that's part of the Retro Network. They're the host for that show. So I do a lot of things like Thrift Store Horde, which is going on hiatus right now, but there's a lot of, a year or so of episodes where we go to thrift stores and then we share our finds. And so if that's something you love, finding nostalgic things, it's stuff from the 80s and 90s. We're collecting toys and games and music and VHS tapes. In my case, I'm a big VHS collector.
Nice.
Yeah. So those types of things, but it's all over on the Retro Network. Retronetwork.com is the hub. You'll find Rental Return Tales from the Video Store. We're about to release season 3, where we interview people who worked in video stores. And the video rental business is a lot crazier than you remember it. So you want to get in on these stories because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, they all, every year I am surprised. We get 6 or 7 people. Their stories are always different and always out of control. So definitely recommend checking it out.
A couple of friends of mine, they have their own show called No More Late Fees. They used to work at Blockbuster.
Oh, that's awesome.
They are fun people.
I'm gonna have to talk to them and listen to the show. That's great.
Yeah. I'll hook y'all up and you can do what you got to do. But yeah, good stuff. Definitely go check all of those out. Now, talking about Wizard magazine, the issue I remember most is when they fan casted X-Men the movie.
Oh yes.
And because I remember their pick for Cyclops, because I'm a huge Cyclops fan. He's my favorite X-Men. I think he's like crazy underrated, especially in the movies. But they picked Michael Biehn as Cyclops.
Yeah, from Aliens and the Terminator.
Yeah. And I remember at the time being like, I don't know about that. But now looking back, like that was legit casting. I would have
They
loved
figured
Michael
it
Biehn as
out.
Cyclops,
Yeah, and those are by far like the most popular thing. Whenever we post those, people are like, I can't believe, even all these years later that all the movies have been made, people still have opinions about the old ideas
That's
from
right.
the 90s. It's hilarious to see that. So yeah, if you want to see that, you can always go to Wizards Comics on Twitter, or Wizards_comics on Instagram, because we always post scans from the magazine that we're
Nice.
covering. So if you just want to feel that nostalgia, or if you just want to see my collection of a lot of stuff from the 80s and 90s that I pick up here and there and decorate my office with, I'm at Hoju Coolander, which is HOJUKOOLANDER. So a little crazy.
Oh man, this was yeah, definitely go check out all that stuff. You gotta. It's so much fun. It's a nostalgia just shot in the arm, especially nowadays when you're working and you're tired, and it's the nights are long and the days are short. Like, just go listen. You'll have so much fun. Adam, thanks again. This was a blast.
And thank you so much again, giving me the opportunity to talk about this. This is, decades in the making for me to have this conversation with somebody,
anybody. Yeah,
Jerry, you are that anybody, and
I'm glad to be that anybody. And on that note, I'll end it by saying, the next time you see Santa Claus, look for me. I'm the little bump upon his knee, and Phroomf is my name. And check us out on our social media pages, Facebook and Instagram at Totally Rad Christmas, Twitter at Rad Christmas, Mastodon at Totally Rad Christmas at mastodon.world, or our Facebook group, Totally Rad Christmas Mall and Arcade, where you can make your voice known to us as well. We post anything and everything 80s or Christmas related. And if you're feeling like Phroomf being carried by Santa, leave us a review on iTunes. It helps us reach more people and spread some rad holiday cheer. Now, don't forget to check out our merch shop on tpublic.com and our super dope website, totallyradchristmas.com. Merry Christmas to all, and to all, a safe night. Later, dudes.
My name is Phroomf. I live with Santa Claus. You never heard about me, and the reason is because no one can spell my name, but I like it just